Wild and Wise Artist. Today I want to talk about anxiety and creativity. Now, even though I've been painting my whole life, sometimes I am still consumed with self-doubt, and that can lead to anxiety, piercing anxiety. You know the feeling. For me, it's like my insides are being twisted around razor blades, or like I've swallowed a big old baguette and it is stuck right here. Add that to the general anxiety that's floating around all the time, waiting to attach itself to anybody who walks by. And sometimes I find that I can't even lift my paintbrush. Sometimes I can barely breathe. But I do have a trick to help ease that anxiety, and I'm going to show you that trick in this video. When you do it on your own, it can help calm you down and help you make space to meet up with your own creativity. But first, let's talk about materials, because I find that it's really important to use the right materials for this to work. And then after that, I'll show you the trick to calm your anxiety. All you need is a brush, paint, paper, and a board. Don't get hung up on what you're going to use. The materials shouldn't be expensive or fancy. That's the beauty of this trick. The cheaper, the better. I prefer to use materials that I don't have any attachment to. You could use an old piece of newspaper or even a flattened paper bag. The point is to not expect anything from your materials and to reduce any kind of stress. I use whatever brush I'm interested in using that day. I like to experiment with different brushes. So it could be a worn out Chinese calligraphy brush. Oh, is that what you're supposed to do? Hold it like that? It could be my fancy sable brush. It could be a nice synthetic, or it could be a cheap, crappy brush I bought at the hardware store. You could use anything. I've used ballpoint pen, pencil. I have even dipped my fingers in mud. Today, I'm going to paint on some rice paper that somebody gave me. It's not a material that I normally use, and I have a lot of it. Even the paint I'm using right now is invaluable to me. It's just an old tube of alizarin crimson that I don't use anymore because it's not light fast. You know, it fades really easily. And I always like to mix up enough paint that I don't have to run out in the middle of this trick. And now for the trick. Okay, so it's not really a trick. It's an exercise, or you might call it a meditation. And it's one that I find really effective for calming myself, for putting aside my anxiety and preparing myself to show up for my creativity. I learned this from Paul Foxton, who's a British painter and teacher. So I can't really say it was my idea, but I have made it mine, as we should all do. When we're taught something, it's okay to change it and grow it to fit you, to fit your creativity. So come on, let's go do some breathing lines. They're pretty simple. They're basically just lines. I start by centering myself in front of the easel. It's really important to be centered. Then I take a few deep breaths and start painting vertical line. I try to control each breath and each line, but not too much. And I don't care if the lines are perfect. I just want them to line up at the top and the bottom and to be parallel to the edge of the paper. I also try to make them the same distance apart, but I don't focus on that. Don't focus on perfection. That's not the point. The point is the slow, consistent breath and letting it guide the brush as you paint these lines. I use my whole arm as I paint. It's good practice in brush control, but more importantly, I get a little somatic workout. It calms me and it helps me connect my body and my mind. When I feel myself rushing, I force myself to slow down because that sense of urgency is just a sign I'm feeling anxious. I let my breath direct the lines, and I let all my anxiety flow out through my breath. When I fill the page full of vertical lines, then I work on horizontal lines. And these are harder, which sometimes introduces a little bit of stress, but the point is to not be perfect. You're just doing horizontal lines. So it's good practice for making level lines, which you often need when you're painting land or landscape. I try to make the lines the same distance apart, but if I don't, it's not the end of the world. It's not important because it's about the process, not the product. So when I'm finishing, I like to make 2 dots on either side of the page, and then I connect them with big swooping lines. This is my favorite part of the exercise. I always feel a big rush of release and fun. Here's the important thing to remember when you're doing these exercises. You're not going to keep these. You're going to throw them away as soon as you're done. Breathing lines are just an exercise and a meditation to calm yourself. And you don't want to have an outcome. You don't want to be thinking of making a product while you're doing these, because it's about the experience. It's about the process that calms you down, gets rid of that knot of anxiety, gets the baguette out of your throat. So you want to throw them away and not think about them. I hope you do these breathing lines and let me know in the comments below how they worked out for you. If you changed them to suit yourself, I'm really curious to know how they work. And I hope that you get to meet up with your creativity. All right, if you like this kind of content, give me a like and a subscribe so that you can get more of this kind of content. And I'll talk to you again.